it does mean it's at risk of being KO'd by just a hammer in from this Kangaskhan next turn. Alright, hey everyone, getting ready to jump into this game. Sorry if the microphone for this first little minute sounds a little weird. I'm actually having to record this after the initial recording. For whatever reason, the audio didn't record for the first minute of this commentary. Thankfully, it kind of kicks back in right at the start of the actual game, so you'll be kicking this off in just a moment. We'll be doing Colorless versus Metal. We've got our Metal player on the top with their fantastic looking sleeves, then our Colorless player on bottom with their very cute Baidu sleeves. Um, and as always, if you are liking this content, please be sure you give it a like, subscribe. Go ahead and comment down below. Helps me know what you guys are liking, what kind of games you want to see more of, and how I can make sure to make these videos as good as possible. That said, game should be starting pretty soon. We'll be getting back into the regular audio, and here we go. Hope you enjoy. Way to, for Pokemon design Heatran, like to have it do more damage whenever you are kind of mixing both its steel and its metal attributes. Bronzong going down as well. Probably playing that Metal Lynx Bronzor, which allows you to, I'm sorry, said that backwards. See, the Bronzor is what went down. The Bronzong, likely playing the Metal Lynx one, which acts similar to Dynamotor, lets you get one energy from your discard and attach it to one of your steel Pokemon on your bench. Go ahead and play Nest Ball. Looks like our Colorless player is looking through their decks, seeing what cards they have, debating going ahead and grabbing that very powerful Thumping Snorlax. But want to check what other resources they have. It does look like they are running Fairy Energy in this deck, so my guess is they are running Crispin. This is something we're starting to see a little bit more often in Colorless decks now that Crispin has come out. It lets you find two basic energies of different types. One of those goes in your hand, the other one gets attached. So you run one or two different types of energies in your deck. Looks like they're opting for fire as well. But then you can use Crispin and find those and get the little bit of energy acceleration with the attach, as well as putting one in your hand. Really, really good card that's being seen in various GLC decks. In addition to Colorless, also seeing it in Dragon, which usually needs lots of different energies. That therapeutic energy going down on Snorlax. Already looking like a pretty decent board for Colorless. I know they did not set up very much on the board, but hey, that Thumping Snorlax with that therapeutic energy can be a huge threat. Level Ball going down for our Metal player. Going to be able to find a Pokemon with 90 HP or less. See if they opt for that Bronzor or Bronzong, which if they are running the Metal Lynx one, I believe that has 90 HP, so they could grab that. Might not be the best play just the moment since there are no metal energies in the discard and you don't really want to attach those to your Bronzong anyway. So it might be better to find another basic Pokemon to set down. If they are running the Matang line, they could potentially get the Beldum to set down, but it looks like instead they're opting for that little engine, the Vavroom. That way they can evolve into Revavroom later on, allows you to discard one energy and then draw until you've got 6 cards in your hand. Good way to get through your deck a little bit as Metal. Talking a little bit about this Snorlax with that therapeutic energy. So for anybody that doesn't know, Thumping Snore does 180 damage for 3 colorless energy, but then it has put Snorlax to sleep and has the additional downside that instead of just having to flip 1 coin, you have to flip 2 coins for that Snorlax to wake up. Therapeutic energy completely negates that downside because it makes it so you cannot be affected by special conditions, and if you are affected by any special conditions before attaching it, then you recover from those. So Snorlax just can do 180 damage for just 3 energy with absolutely no downside. Completely bonkers card. When they printed that, I was like, I was already playing a Snorlax deck that kind of revolved around just attacking with Snorlax. Definitely not the strongest deck in the world, but kind of fun to play. And when I saw that, I was like, man, this is going to make that deck even more wild. And of course, it's been adopted by every colorless deck that runs Snorlax, which is basically every colorless deck because it's just too good. So Guzma going down, getting Snorlax into play, does have that double energy in hand. Going to be able to take out this Vavroom. Wow, also field blowing the Floatstone, completely picking apart their opponents so far in this game. Does use that Thumping Snore, draws 1 prize. gets that revive. Supporters in hand are not the most helpful at the moment. It does just have Raihan as well as Mela. But at the moment, their opponent seems like they might be already struggling a little bit to find what they can possibly do. This is definitely one of the powers of Colorless. Sometimes it can just go so fast. You get that Snorlax right away, get energies on it in the first 2 turns, and it just starts hitting over and over and over again. And it's so difficult to catch back up. Keep toughness goes down on the Heatran. Got 190 HP, just out of range of that Snorlax now. Then plays Cynthia, gonna shuffle that hand back in and draw a new 6 cards. Metal player really wanting to find something to help them get back into this game. They're gonna need to get some additional Pokemon down. Ultimately, need to get some energies down. They cannot start setting up some attackers and put some pressure on this colorless player. They're really at risk of being just completely knocked out of this game before they've even had a chance to get going. Unlike Colorless, which can go very fast, Steel tends to be a little bit more of a slow and steady style deck. It does often play decently well from behind. Don't remember exactly how old this game is. I think our Growlithe was out by the time that this game was recorded, which if our player is playing that, it can't be a way to... Looks like they accidentally flipped that card over, but believe it's, yeah, under this... It's past the 7. This is really something they probably should have called a judge over just to kind of double check on. But ultimately, they didn't look at more cards than they should have. They drew a little bit more from that, but didn't look at those. Can put those other cards back. Ultimately, they're gonna have to shuffle anyway, so they don't really gain any more knowledge than they would have had anyway. So not something that would probably go above a warning if they had called me over for this. But you don't want to risk it. It's always good to call a judge just in case, because if that did maybe get into a escalate in some kind of way later on, you could wind up getting yourself in more hot water than if you just called over somebody in the first place. But again, no harm, no foul here. Just flipped over a card that was going to get shuffled back in anyway. It is technically deck knowledge, but they have done some deck searches. So depending on how the any judge that calls over wants to rule it, again, most likely would just be a warning. Though sometimes you might see that escalated depending on the level of tournament that you're running at. Zamazenta going down. Great counter-attacker when your opponent takes a KO. If it's got enough energy attached, it can then hit for 220 total damage, which would be more than enough to KO the Snorlax, but still needs to find additional energies first. Did get that fire energy on the Heatran. Ultimately, our Snorlax player just goes ahead and puts an energy down, takes another KO. Our metal player has to make a tough decision now on what they're going to promote. Are they potentially just going to sacrifice their Zamazenta, preserve that energy with the Cave of Toughness on their Heatran? Looks like that is what they are opting for. Goes for Arven. Won't be surprised if we see something like a Professor's Letter to get some energies out of the deck. Their priority right now is they need to take a KO on this Snorlax, slow down their opponent. Turbo Energize could be another good way to go. Could grab, again, that Professor's Letter as well as Turbo Energize, and not only, or fully power up this Heatran from there. Looks like our player is debating getting that Frying Pan rather than the Turbo Energize. Believe that would then, if you put a Metal Energy on Zamazenta, protect it from being KO'd. Ultimately does go for the Turbo Energize, so probably going to go with the play that I was just talking about. Use the Professor's Letter. Going to find 2 energies from the deck. This could be the play that helps our metal player get back into this game. Again, if they attach an energy for turn here on the Zamazenta and then use that Turbo Energize, they can find 2 basic energies and attach them to their Heatran. That will fully power up that Heatran and allow it to actually take a KO next turn, because it does do 160 damage since it's got that fire energy attached. As long as our colorless player doesn't find something to buff the HP of this Snorlax, then might have actually found a way to get back into the game. still will be a tough road to come back. That Kangaskhan does have an energy and can hit pretty hard on that Heatran. Does find that Bidoof off the top and has Squovent. So far, still does not have that draw engine. We do know that our looks like they're all actions in Natch Dash. I was going to talk about the fact that they've got Mela as well as the Raihan in hand. So if their Snorlax did get KO'd, well, I guess that actually wouldn't be enabled because there's no fire energies in the discard at the moment, I don't believe. Does find that double turbo energy. See if they ultimately decide to attach it to Kangaskhan. Looks like really debating that. Goes ahead and uses a Rangaroo, so you're going to see 3 more cards. Oh, that's a little rough. They would have preferred to attach one of those energies they just drew to the Kangaskhan rather than double turbo, which does make you do 20 less damage. Goes ahead and uses that Thumping Snore, takes the KO. One more prize. Well, there is the Fighting Fury Belt, a little bit too late. So it looks like Snorlax will go down this turn. Metal player needs to find some additional Pokemon they can get down in their bench. Not sure exactly what their build there. Looks like it's a little bit of an older build that may not be running some of the newer things like that Iron Crown. But does play the Lusamine. Going to grab Cynthia as well as Arven. Fortunately, if that's all they're doing this turn, though, might be... Yep, looks like they take the KO. So Snorlax goes down. Up comes the Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan's not going to be able to take a KO this turn because of that Cave of Toughness and also that double turbo energy. But there's the Rescue Stretcher. Snorlax coming right back. Sometimes basically impossible to keep that guy down. Debating putting on the Fighting Fury Belt. Will keep them from getting counter KO'd next turn if they do that. Almost certainly should go ahead and put 1 energy down on the Snorlax this turn. They do have the Winona in hand, so they go ahead and, if they play that, can find their Bibarel as well as 2 other colorless Pokemon. Such a fantastic card. Like, it's one of the things I like about GLC is being able to play with cards like that. There's just so much from the history of Pokemon that can make for some absolutely crazy decks. Clearly cards that were never intended to be played together. Back when that was printed, didn't have, a format like this where you were balancing around just single prize Pokemon that you could only have 1 copy of in the deck. But just even beyond that, you did not have these much more powerful modern attackers like this Lost Origin Snorlax. I believe that's the set anyway that this Snorlax came from. But just a lot of the single price Pokemon that are coming out these days are just, again, way more powerful than a lot of older stuff. Go ahead and use that Rangaroo. Just has that absolutely devastating draw engine fully set up. Doesn't find anything they want to play, so goes ahead and uses that Bibarel. Going to go ahead and use that Rally back this turn. Should be 120 minus the double turbo, so that would be 100 damage if that's what ultimately they're using, plus the 10 from the Fighting Fury Belt. So back up to 110 is what our player does. Heatran now only has, I believe, 60 HP left. 80 HP. So 80 HP. It does mean it's at risk of being KO'd by just a hammer in from this Kangaskhan next turn. See if our player has anything they can really do. They do have Versus Seeker, but not a lot of good supporters down. Ooh, Bridget, it does help keep them in the game since it will help them find some basic Pokemon. But not probably the most ideal thing that they wanted to be using this turn. Because at the same time, there may not be any other way that they can take a KO on Kangaskhan this turn unless they had a way to find their Field Blower. Yeah, it looked like this might be a little bit of an older build, so using that Cobalion. Though some decks are kind of opting for newer Iron Crowns versus the Cobalion, both are similar in various ways where they do more damage based on the number of bench Pokemon that are in play. There's an argument for both, really. I don't think either one is strictly better than the other. Also grabbing that Beldum, so they do have that Batang that they could potentially be using, and that Kufant. I think that's what that Pokemon is called, or how you pronounce that. I'm not totally sure. But it evolves in a big elephant guy, whose name I also cannot remember. There's multiple different versions of Big Elephant Guy, which is what I'm just going to call him for the rest of this video because I can't remember what its name is, that they could be running. So without knowing what the deck list is, hard to say for sure what they could possibly be playing. Go ahead and get an energy down on that Cobalion. So setting that up as potentially their next attacker once this Heatran goes down next turn. But unfortunately for them, I mean, their opponent has their draw engine completely set up. It's going to be tough to stop them at this point. This is where Colorless gets very dangerous, becomes a really big threat. That's Squovent being able to put one shuffle your hand, put your cards on the bottom of the deck, and then draw one card, and then draw with a Rangaroo, draw with Bibarel. You're just seeing so many cards every single turn. Finding those resources, getting what you need, using Metal Saucer to use that, put an energy on that Kufant, starting to set up more attackers, maybe finding a way to get back into this game with that Bridget. I was thinking that was maybe not the best play, but I guess, yeah, they need to get more Pokemon down, so actually making a lot of sense, especially since they have some other cards to start getting energies into play. If they can actually find their Matang next turn and get additional energies, evolve one of these Pokemon, or just use their Cobalion, maybe they can get right back into this game. The danger becomes if this Snorlax gets fully powered up again before that happens, this is their window. Gosh, ideally, if they could just get rid of this Fighting Fury Belt and take a KO on the Kangaskhan, that could actually be something that could really turn the game around if their opponent didn't have a way to respond. Like, yes, they do have their draw engine, but if they did not find, a way to power up Snorlax next turn, they'd take a turn off, give our Steel player more chance to come back. But looking like that is not going to be what is happening. Does not find a way to get rid of that Fighting Fury Belt, so does not take the KO. Uses Mala, so going to be able to reorder the deck a little bit. Great card with this draw engine. Since you're drawing so many cards off the top of your deck, you can guarantee that you're finding exactly the two cards that you want. So finding two options really quickly looks like our player knows exactly what they want. Shuffling up the deck before those two cards go on top. Then likely we'll use either Squovent or, depending on how many cards are left in hand, can go ahead and just use either a Rangaroo or a Fire Barrel. I think they will likely need to play the Squovent first. I think they've got too many cards in hand to be able to draw off of either the Rangaroo or Fire Barrel. I could be wrong. It looks like they've got 4 or 5 cards left in hand. Doing a little bit of math, making sure that they would get a KO. Again, if they're doing it correctly, they should be able to get the KO with that hammer in. They'd be doing 90 damage. Goes ahead and uses Squovent, so going to be able to get one card off the top after this, and then draw into some additional cards with that Oranguru and Bibarel. We know 2 of those cards are exactly the cards that they're wanting for this situation, which one of those is that Twin Energy, which is absolutely the correct card to go for. Doing exactly what I said was the one thing that put them at risk, which is not powering up that Snorlax in time. But there you go, got it fully set up. Going to be very difficult for our metal player to find a way to continue to come back in this game. They're already on the back foot, and with that Snorlax ready to go once again, that might even just spell the end of this game. Even drawing the cape that you can put on the Snorlax potentially, but does not offer that just yet. Goes ahead and takes the KO. 2 prizes remaining for our Colorless player. We are barely into this game and already looking like we're coming potentially to the conclusion. Colorless in just a very dominant position. They are most likely going to lose Kangaskhan this turn. It's obviously on very low HP, so this Cobalion can very easily take a KO as long as Metal has 1 more energy they can attach. But then that Cobalion just goes down next turn to Snorlax since it's fully set up. And with that cape in hand, to be able to buff it to 200 HP might be all she wrote for our metal player. Arvin does go down. Going to be able to get a item as well as a tool card. See what they ultimately opt for. Ooh, is debating that Field Blower. Field Blower will get a KO on this Kangaskhan. If they do that, can be a way to get a 2-price swing potentially this turn if that's what they opt for. So does ultimately opt for the Field Blower as well as the Metal Goggles. Metal Goggles actually would put the Cobalion just out of range. No, I'm sorry, no it wouldn't. That's 130 HP. I was misreading that a little bit. So Metal Goggles makes you take 30 less damage from attacks, so that would only be putting the Cobalion at effective 160 damage, or HP rather, which that Snorlax is hitting for 180, so it would still take the KO. But even still, this Field Blower going to allow our metal player to take a KO on this Kangaskhan, which does mean it was a really good idea on the part of our colorless player to not put down that cape. Make sure that it's protected on the Snorlax so that it will make sure it's got its fully buffed HP next turn. Metal does take a prize down to 4 remaining. Debating what they want to go up with. I'm sorry, it's based on prize you take it, not on bench damage. I was forgetting exactly how that one worked. Either way, let's go with what that cycles are. Matang also going down. So Metal maybe not completely out of this game. They do have a chance here if they can find some energies, which they don't. Oh, that's so rough. So just gonna unfortunately have to shuffle those cards back in, put them on the bottom of the deck. You know, if they could have powered up this Cufant a little bit more and evolved it next turn, take a counter KO on that Snorlax, because I believe they are running the big elephant guy that does, I think, 200 damage or 220 damage as long as it doesn't have any damage counters on it. Does, I think, cost 4 energy, so you do need lots of energies in play to make it effective. So it does take that KO. Up comes Snorlax. Our metal player, you know, they are, again, on the back foot, but they're not completely out. There are ways they could come back. If they can hit an energy next turn, attack to that Cufant, or potentially even find their Zamazenta and get that back into play, then, you know, they could potentially find enough energies to take a KO here and, you know, stop the momentum of this colorless player. So recycle energy going down on the Lugia. Setting up another backup attacker on the bench. That Arrow Ball does additional damage based on the number of energies attached to both Pokemon. So again, as you're putting down more energies on that, it can just be hitting harder and harder. Great for taking KOs on Pokemon that require lots of energies. Can also be a relatively cheap attacker if you just need to hit for a little bit of damage to finish things off. Go ahead and use that Nest Dash and draws 1 card. It's an energy, so go ahead and a Rangaroo. Finding that Muscle Band and the U-turn board. So now has a nice pivot Pokemon for if the Snorlax does go down. Drawing a few more cards off of this Bibarel. Ooh, finding that powerful energy is another way to be able to overcome, do some additional damage if they need to. They are asleep, but did play the all-night party. So it does still have to roll to see if they wake up, see if they get that 25% chance. They do, so don't even need the all-night party. Really just seems like it's not Metal's day today. They're not completely out. They can evolve this turn. Find a few energies off this Matang. They can maybe still take a KO on this Snorlax this turn if they are running the big elephant that can do enough damage. Go ahead and using that Metal Lynx or Metal Sound? Metal something. I don't remember what it's called. Ultimately doesn't find any energies. Still having no luck here. It's one of the downsides of that card. It's definitely something I thought might really make Metal a lot more powerful in GLC. I think unfortunately a lot of the lists just don't run enough energies to make it consistent enough. Going ahead and using Cynthia, going to see additional cards. Really, their only chance here is there any way to be able to power up this Q-Fan this turn? They've used their Metal Saucer. They failed their Matang's ability. I'm not sure that there is a way. One prize remaining for a colorless player. Does not give a lot of options. There is the option. Oh, nope. Does concede. That is GG. Colorless takes the win. Very dominating victory for our colorless player. Congratulations.